Rain hammered against the windshield as Thomas Walker drove down a forgotten road in northern Vermont. The GPS had stopped working 20 minutes ago. His phone showed no signal. The sky was black, despite it being only 6 in the evening. The forest surrounding the road seemed endless. Ancient pine trees stood so close together that they formed a wall of darkness on either side. Thomas tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He hated places like this. Silent places. Places where nobody could hear you scream. A bitter smile crossed his face. That thought would have sounded ridiculous to him a year ago. But a lot had changed. His wife had died 11 months earlier. Cancer. Fast. Cruel. The kind that stole a person piece by piece until all that remained were memories. After her death, Thomas sold their house in Boston and quit his teaching job. He wanted to disappear. Not forever, just long enough to stop feeling like every room contained a ghost. That was why he had accepted an offer nobody else wanted. A caretaker position. 6 months, good pay, remote location. One enormous Victorian mansion known as Blackthorn House. The owner lived overseas and needed someone to maintain the property. The previous caretaker had left unexpectedly. The one before him had lasted less than a month. Thomas hadn't asked questions. Money was money, and loneliness had become familiar. A flash of lightning illuminated the road ahead. For a split second, he thought he saw someone standing among the trees. A woman, white dress, long black hair. Then darkness swallowed everything again. Thomas frowned. Probably a branch, or exhaustion. He had been driving all day. 10 minutes later, he saw the gate. Massive iron bars rose from the ground like prison walls. A rusted sign hung crookedly. Blackthorn House, Est. 1888. The gate stood open. That somehow felt worse than if it had been locked. Thomas drove through. The gravel driveway curved through acres of overgrown land. Dead statues appeared from the darkness. Angels, children, animals. Most were broken. Many were missing faces. The mansion emerged from the storm like something from a nightmare. 4 stories tall, countless windows, sharp rooftops, dark stone walls. Even in the rain it looked abandoned. Yet lights glowed in several windows. Thomas parked. The engine died. Silence immediately filled the world. The rain sounded distant, muted, as though something was absorbing the noise. He stepped out. Cold winds struck him. The front door stood before him. Huge, wooden, covered in strange carvings. For some reason, Thomas hesitated. His instincts screamed at him to leave, to get back in the car, to drive until he found civilization. Instead, he grabbed his bags and entered. The door opened with surprising ease. The smell hit him first. Dust, old wood, and something else. Something damp, something rotten. The entrance hall was enormous. A chandelier hung overhead. Portraits covered the walls. Hundreds of eyes seemed to watch him. Thomas switched on his flashlight. The beam swept across the paintings. Every portrait depicted members of the same family, the Blackthorns. Men, women, children. None of them smiled, echoed, somewhere above. Thomas froze. The sound came again. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, walking across the second floor. He looked up. Nothing. The owner had assured him the house was empty. Completely empty. The footsteps stopped. Thomas laughed nervously. Old houses made noises. Everyone knew that. The sound had been strangely deliberate, almost human. He continued exploring. The mansion seemed endless. Hallways branched into more hallways. Doors led to rooms that led to other rooms. Libraries, bedrooms, ballrooms, studies. Most remained untouched for decades. Near midnight, Thomas finally unpacked in the caretaker suite. A small apartment connected to the western wing. Simple, comfortable, safe, or at least safer than the rest of the mansion. He collapsed into bed. Exhaustion overtook him immediately. And then he dreamed. He stood inside a hallway. A mansion looked different, new, alive. Candles illuminated the walls. Voices echoed through distant rooms. People laughed somewhere nearby. Thomas walked forward. The hallway stretched impossibly far. The floor beneath him felt sticky, wet. He looked down. Blood. The entire floor was covered in blood. Fresh blood. His breathing quickened. A door appeared ahead, slowly opening. Someone stood behind it. A little girl, perhaps 8 years old. She wore a white dress. Her face remained hidden behind long, dark hair. "Thomas," she whispered. His heart stopped. How did she know his name? Her voice sounded wrong. Not like a child's. More like dozens of voices speaking together. "Don't go upstairs." The hallway suddenly shook. A deafening scream erupted from above. The girl lifted her head. Her eyes were completely black. "He's awake." Everything went dark. Thomas sat upright in bed. Sweat soaked his clothes. His heart pounded violently. A nightmare. Nothing more. A nightmare. Then he heard it. Knock. 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 3 slow knocks, coming from his bedroom door. Thomas stared. The knocks came again. Knock. 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 Every hair on his body stood up. It was 3 in the morning. Nobody else was supposed to be here. He grabbed a flashlight, approached the door, opened it. The hallway outside was empty, silent, dark. No movement, nothing. He checked every nearby room. No one. Eventually, he convinced himself it had been the house settling. But when he returned to his bedroom, he noticed something. Words, written on the inside of the door. Words that had not been there earlier. 3 simple words. "Don't look up." Thomas stared at them. His blood turned cold. The letters appeared scratched into the wood. Fresh scratches, as if someone had written them minutes ago. A loud thump echoed above him. Directly above, the attic. Something was moving up there, slowly, dragging itself across the floor. Thomas spent the rest of the night awake. Morning brought sunlight and rational thinking. The message? Someone's old prank. The noises? Animals. The nightmare? Stress. Simple explanations. Reasonable explanations. Thomas clung to them desperately. After breakfast, he began inspecting the mansion. By noon, he discovered something strange. There were no photographs of the family after 1928. Not one. Every portrait, every document, every newspaper clipping, everything stopped in the same year. It was as if the Blackthorn family had vanished overnight. Curious, Thomas searched the library. Hours later, he found a local newspaper. Its pages were yellow with age. A headline caught his attention. "Blackthorn family disappears. Local authorities baffled." The article claims 17 family members vanished during a single night. No bodies were ever found. No signs of struggle. No explanation. The mansion had remained empty ever since. Thomas frowned. That made no sense. 17 people didn't simply disappear. As he turned the page, a folded note slipped from the newspaper. The handwriting looked hurried, desperate. He unfolded it. The message read, "If you find this, leave immediately. The house is not empty. It never was." Thomas felt a chill crawl down his spine. At that exact moment, a loud bang exploded somewhere upstairs. He jumped. The sound was followed by another and another. Door after door slamming shut. Pray. Bang. 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 The noise raced through the mansion like a chain reaction. Then, silence. Absolute silence. Thomas slowly stood. The library suddenly felt smaller. The air felt heavier. He stepped into the hallway. Every door on the second floor now stood closed. Every single one. Even though many had been open earlier. Then he heard a voice. A whisper. very close, right behind him. He spun around. Nobody. The hallway was empty, but the whisper came again, from somewhere above. The attic. Thomas. A long pause. Then, look up. Thomas raised his eyes toward the ceiling and saw a face staring down at him through a crack in the wood. Pale skin, black eyes, a grin impossibly wide. The face vanished instantly. Thomas stumbled backward. His flashlight fell from his hand. The mansion trembled, and somewhere deep inside Blackthorn House, something laughed. Thomas stood frozen in the library. The flashlight lay on the floor. The face he had seen through the ceiling crack was gone. For several seconds, he couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His mind desperately searched for a logical explanation. A trick of the light, stress, fatigue, anything. But deep down, he knew what he had seen. Those black eyes, that impossible smile, they had been real. A sudden crash echoed from somewhere upstairs. Thomas flinched. The sound was followed by silence. Then another noise, a slow scraping sound, as if something heavy was being dragged across the attic floor. The noise moved, directly above him. Thomas grabbed the flashlight and backed toward the library door. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to get in his car and drive away. Yet another part of him remained, the stubborn part, the part that refused to be frightened away by shadows and strange noises. Maybe someone was living inside the house. Maybe the previous caretakers had left because of a squatter. That explanation made more sense than ghosts, at least for now. He spent the afternoon searching the mansion. Every room, every hallway, every locked closet. Nothing. No sign of another person, no footprints, no food, no evidence that anyone had been living there. As evening approached, dark clouds gathered outside once again. Rain began falling. The storm returned, and with it came an uncomfortable feeling. The house felt different, as though it knew he had seen something he wasn't supposed to see. By 9 o'clock, Thomas sat alone in the kitchen. A cup of coffee rested beside him. The storm rattled the windows. Lightning flashed beyond the glass. His eyes drifted toward a stack of old documents he had found earlier. Most belonged to the Blackthorn family. Birth certificates, property records, letters. One letter stood out. Its paper was stained yellow with age. The date read, October 12, 1928. Thomas unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, almost panicked. It appeared to have been written by a woman named Eleanor Blackthorn. The letter read, "Something is wrong with William. He no longer sleeps. He spends hours speaking to empty rooms. Last night, I heard him talking inside the attic. At first, I thought he was alone. Then I realized someone was answering him. The voice did not belong to any member of this family. I am terrified. The children say there is a man in the walls. They claim he watches them while they sleep. God help us if they are telling the truth." Thomas swallowed. A chill ran through him. Thunder shook the mansion. The lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. "Wonderful," Thomas muttered. He grabbed a lantern. The old generator usually activated automatically. Tonight, it didn't. The darkness felt immediate, oppressive. The entire house seemed to be holding its breath. Thomas lit the lantern. Warm yellow light filled the room. At that exact moment, a loud knock echoed from the front door. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. Knock, knock. Thomas stared. Someone was outside. At nearly 10 o'clock, in the middle of a storm. He carried the lantern toward the entrance hall. The mansion creaked around him. The knock came again. Knock, knock, knock. Thomas reached the front door, opened it. No one stood outside, only rain and darkness. The empty driveway stretched into the distance. Thomas frowned. Then he looked down. A muddy footprint sat directly in front of the door. Fresh, human. He stepped outside. More footprints led away from the house, toward the woods, toward the trees. The strange thing was their size. They looked enormous, far larger than a normal person's. Thomas followed them several yards before stopping. The footprints ended abruptly. Not faded, not washed away, simply ended. As if whoever made them had vanished. A cold gust of wind swept through the forest, and then he heard it. A child laughing, somewhere among the trees. Thomas froze. The laughter continued. Soft, playful, wrong. There shouldn't have been children anywhere near Blackthorn House. The sound drifted deeper into the woods, then disappeared. Thomas quickly returned inside and locked the door. For the first time since arriving, he genuinely considered leaving. But a storm this severe made driving dangerous. He decided to wait until morning. Just one more night. That decision would haunt him forever. He sat inside his room, reading. The storm continued outside. The rain struck the windows like thousands of tiny fingers. He tried focusing on his book. Failed. His thoughts kept returning to the footprints, the face, the letter, the laughter. Eventually, exhaustion won. His eyes closed. Sleep came quickly, and the dream returned. This time, he stood inside the mansion's grand staircase. Everything looked exactly as it had before. The house was alive, bright, occupied. People moved through the hallways, servants, family members, children, yet none seemed able to see him. Thomas watched silently. Then he noticed something. Every person looked terrified. They spoke in whispers, glancing nervously toward the ceiling, toward the attic. A little boy ran down the stairs, perhaps 10 years old. Tears streamed down his face. "He took Sarah," the boy cried. "He took Sarah." Nobody answered. A woman collapsed into tears. A man covered his face. Then a loud thump echoed overhead. Everyone froze. The entire house fell silent. Another thump followed, then another. Something moved inside the attic. Something heavy, something large. A door slowly opened at the top of the stairs. Darkness poured from within, not shadows, darkness itself, thick, alive. The family backed away. The little boy screamed, and from inside that darkness emerged a figure, tall, extremely tall, its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its limbs looked unnaturally long. Its skin was pale. Its eyes completely black. And its smile stretched impossibly wide. The creature turned, looked directly at Thomas, as though it could see him. Its grin widened. Then it whispered, "You're next." Thomas woke instantly, gasping. Sweat covered his face. The room was dark. The lantern had gone out. For several seconds he lay motionless, trying to calm himself. Then he heard breathing. Someone else's breathing, inside the room. Thomas slowly sat up. The breathing continued. Deep, wet, close, very close. His heart pounded. The darkness seemed thicker than normal, almost unnatural. He reached for the flashlight beside the bed, switched it on. The beam cut through the darkness. Nothing. The room was empty. The breathing stopped. Thomas exhaled. Then the flashlight beam moved upward, toward the ceiling. His blood turned to ice. Words covered the ceiling. Hundreds of words, scratched into the paint. The same sentence repeated over and over. "He is in the walls. He is in the walls. He is in the walls. He is in the walls." Thomas leapt from the bed. The scratches looked fresh, as though they had appeared moments ago. Then came another sound, a faint giggle, from inside the wall beside him. Not behind the wall. Inside it, the giggle became laughter. Childish, distorted. The wall suddenly bulged outward. Thomas stumbled backward. The plaster stretched, twisted. as if something inside the wall was pushing against it, trying to get out. A small hand-shaped impression appeared, then another, then another. Dozens of tiny handprints pushed against the wall from within. The laughter grew louder. Thomas ran. He didn't stop, didn't look back. He burst into the hallway, slammed the door behind him. The mansion was silent. No laughter, no movement, nothing. Only darkness. Thomas leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Then he noticed something strange. The hallway looked different. Longer, much longer. The distance to the staircase should have been 20 feet. Now it stretched nearly 100. The house had changed. The hallway continued endlessly into darkness. "No," Thomas whispered. "This isn't real." Yet it felt real. Every detail, every sound, every heartbeat. A door slowly opened somewhere ahead. A little girl stepped into the hallway. White dress, long black hair. The same girl from his dream. She stared at him. "Thomas," she said softly. "He's looking for you." Thomas remained frozen. The girl pointed upward, toward the ceiling. "Don't let him see your face." "What are you?" Thomas asked. The girl didn't answer. Instead she whispered, "Run." Wood shattered. Dust filled the air. A gigantic arm burst through the roof. Long fingers, black claws. The girl screamed. Thomas turned and ran. The hallway trembled violently. Behind him came crashing sounds, splintering wood, heavy footsteps. The thing was coming. Thomas sprinted through the endless corridor. Doorways flashed past, dark rooms, moving shadows, whispers, screams. Every wall seemed alive. The mansion itself appeared to be watching him. A deafening roar echoed behind him. Thomas risked a glance. The creature crawled from the shattered ceiling. Its body bent at impossible angles. Its limbs stretched unnaturally long. Its black eyes locked onto him, and it smiled. The same smile. The smile from the attic. The smile from the crack in the ceiling. The smile from the dream. It moved with horrifying speed. Thomas ran faster. The hallway narrowed. Darkness closed around him. The creature gained ground. Closer, closer, closer. Thomas woke. Morning sunlight streamed through the window. He sat upright, breathing heavily. His entire body shook. A dream. Another dream. Only a dream. Yet something felt wrong. Very wrong. Slowly, he looked toward the wall beside his bed. The wall appeared normal. No handprints, no bulges, nothing. Relief flooded through him. Then he noticed the floor. Small muddy footprints, child-sized, leading from the wall, across the room, to his bed, and stopping beside where he had slept. Thomas stared. His mouth went dry. The footprints were real. Impossible, but real. He packed his bags immediately. Enough was enough. Whatever happened in Blackthorn House wasn't normal. He wanted no part of it. 30 minutes later, he carried everything downstairs. The front door stood ahead. Freedom. Escape. Thomas grabbed the handle. Pulled. The door wouldn't open. He frowned. Pulled harder. Nothing. The door remained sealed shut. He unlocked it. Tried again. Still nothing. As if something on the other side held it closed. Thomas moved to a nearby window. It wouldn't open either. Every exit, every door, every window, locked, sealed, trapped. Panic began rising inside him. Then a voice echoed through the mansion. Soft, ancient, hungry. A voice that seemed to come from every wall at once. Thomas. The house groaned. The chandelier above him swayed. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The voice spoke again. Closer this time. Don't leave. Something laughed deep within Blackthorn House. A terrible laugh. The laugh of something that had waited a very long time. And Thomas suddenly understood one horrifying truth. The previous caretakers hadn't left. They had tried. Thomas stood motionless in the entrance hall. The voice had vanished. The mansion was silent once more. Yet the words echoed inside his mind. Don't leave. For the first time since arriving at Blackthorn House, true panic gripped him. Not fear, not nervousness, panic. Because he had pulled on every exit, every door, every window. Nothing had opened. It was as if the mansion itself had locked him inside. Thomas forced himself to breathe. There had to be a rational explanation. Old houses warped, doors jammed, windows stuck. He refused to believe otherwise. Grabbing a heavy fireplace poker, he marched toward the nearest window. He swung. The iron bar struck the glass. Crash! The impact echoed through the hall. But the glass didn't break. Not even a crack. Thomas blinked, then struck again. Harder. Crash. Nothing. The window remained untouched. Impossible. No ordinary glass could survive that. A cold feeling settled in his stomach. He backed away slowly. Outside, the sky had darkened again, despite it being early afternoon. Heavy clouds rolled overhead. The forest surrounding the mansion seemed darker than before, almost closer, as if the trees had moved during the night. A sudden noise interrupted his thoughts, a metallic clang, somewhere below him. Thomas frowned. Below? The mansion had a basement. He hadn't explored it yet. The sound came again. Clang, clang, like someone striking metal or banging on a pipe. 3 times. Then silence. Thomas stared toward the hallway leading to the cellar stairs. Every instinct told him to ignore it. Instead, he grabbed his flashlight and followed the sound. The basement door stood near the back of the house. Heavy oak wood, iron hinges. A thick chain hung loosely from the handle. Thomas pushed the door open. A foul odor drifted upward. Damp stone, rotting wood, something else, something older. The narrow staircase descended into darkness. His flashlight beam barely penetrated it. The air grew colder with every step. The basement stretched farther than he expected. Stone walls, low ceilings, ancient support beams, rows of forgotten furniture covered in white sheets. Everything looked untouched for decades. Then he saw it. A room at the far end. Its door stood open. Inside sat dozens of shelves filled with journals, boxes, records, photographs, a hidden archive. Thomas entered carefully. Dust coated everything. Many journals belonged to former caretakers. His pulse quickened. This was exactly what he needed. Answers. He opened the newest journal first. The name on the cover read, Michael Harris Caretaker 2018. Thomas flipped through the pages. Most entries described ordinary maintenance work, repairs, cleaning, landscaping. Then the writing changed. The handwriting became shaky, uneven, almost frantic. One entry caught his attention. October 17th. I keep hearing footsteps inside. The walls. Not behind them. Inside them. Every night, around 2:13. The same footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I think someone is living here. Tomorrow I am searching the attic. Thomas turned the page. October 18. I should not have gone up there. God forgive me. I should not have looked. The next several pages had been torn out. Thomas swallowed. The final entry remained. Only 3 lines, written in enormous trembling letters. He knows my name. He smiles when I sleep. He's in the house. The journal ended there. Thomas stared silently. No explanation, no conclusion, just terror. He opened another journal, and another, and another. The pattern repeated. Every caretaker experienced similar events. Whispers, footsteps, children, dreams, and eventually, the attic. Something always happened in the attic. Something that broke them. Thomas reached for another box. Inside lay dozens of photographs. Old black and white images. Most showed Blackthorn House during different decades. Then one photograph made him freeze. The picture showed several caretakers standing together. Men from different years, different generations, yet each had something in common. Their expressions. Everyone looked terrified, and standing behind them, barely visible, was a tall figure, watching. The same pale face, the same black eyes, the same smile. Thomas nearly dropped the photograph. The figure appeared in every picture, every single one. Sometimes near a window, sometimes in a doorway, sometimes standing among the trees, always watching, always smiling. A loud bang echoed somewhere above. Thomas jumped. The basement ceiling vibrated. Dust fell. Then another bang, and another. Something was moving through the mansion. Heavy, slow, purposeful. Thomas shoved the photographs into his backpack. If he ever escaped, he wanted proof. Then his flashlight flickered. Once, twice, and died. Darkness swallowed the basement. Wonderful, Thomas muttered. His voice sounded small, weak. The darkness felt unnatural, too thick, too complete. Then he heard breathing. Not his own. Someone else stood nearby, very nearby. A wet inhale, a slow exhale. Thomas remained perfectly still. The breathing continued, from somewhere directly behind him. His skin crawled. Every instinct screamed at him not to turn around. The breathing grew louder, closer, closer. Then a whisper brushed his ear. He ran. Thomas sprinted through the basement. Boxes crashed behind him. Something moved in the darkness, following, not running, walking, slowly. As though it knew he couldn't escape. The whisper returned, from multiple directions. Thomas, Thomas, Thomas. The voice echoed throughout the cellar. Thomas reached the staircase, raced upward, and slammed the basement door shut behind him. Silence. Nothing followed. For several seconds he stood there, gasping for breath. Then came a soft knock from the other side of the door. Knock, knock, knock. Thomas backed away. The knock came again, slow, patient, then stopped. That night the storm returned. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder shook the mansion. Thomas sat inside the library, surrounded by journals, photographs, documents. The evidence painted a horrifying picture. Nobody escaped Blackthorn House. Nobody. Caretakers disappeared. Guests vanished. Entire families went missing. The mansion devoured people. And somehow the world forgot them. Thomas rubbed his eyes. Exhaustion weighed heavily on him. He needed answers. Real answers. The oldest journal might contain them. Hours later he found it. A leather-bound diary dated 1928, the final year of the Blackthorn family. Its owner was Eleanor Blackthorn, the same woman whose letter he had discovered. Thomas opened it carefully. The pages trembled in his hands. September 3rd, 1928. William says he has found something beneath the house, a room older than the mansion itself. He refuses to tell me what it is. The children are frightened. They say strange voices come from the walls at night. September 17th. William spends all his time underground. He barely sleeps. Hardly eats. Sometimes I hear him laughing alone. October 2nd. I followed him tonight. I wish I had not. There is a chamber beneath the cellar. A hidden place. Something lives there. I saw its eyes. God help us. I saw its eyes. Thomas turned the page quickly. October 12th. The thing calls itself the Watcher. It knows our names, our memories, our fears. William believes it grants knowledge, but it only wants one thing. It wants to be seen. And once you truly see it, it never lets you leave. The remaining pages were stained with water. or tears. The final entry nearly stopped Thomas's heart. October 31st. It has taken Sarah, then Robert, then James. Tonight it will take the rest of us. If anyone finds this, burn the house. Do not listen to it. Do not look into its eyes. And whatever happens, do not go to the attic. The diary ended there. Thomas stared at the words. The attic. Everything led back to the attic. The dreams, the children, the disappearances, the creature. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts. Upstairs, followed by another, then another. Thomas stood. The noises sounded violent. Furniture overturning, doors slamming. The mansion trembled. Something was happening. Then he heard screaming, children screaming. The sound echoed through the halls. Thomas rushed into the corridor. The screams came from the third floor. He climbed the staircase. Lightning flashed through nearby windows. For a brief second, the entire hallway illuminated, and Thomas saw them. Children, dozens of them, standing silently along the corridor. Boys, girls, different ages, different decades, all pale, all staring. Every one of them wore old-fashioned clothing. Ghosts. Thomas knew it instantly. One little girl stepped forward, the girl from his dreams. "Thomas," she whispered, "we don't have much time." The other children remained silent, watching, waiting. "What are you?" Thomas asked. "We were taken." "Taken by what?" The girl's expression darkened. "The Watcher." Thunder shook the house. The lights flickered. The children glanced nervously toward the ceiling, as if afraid. One boy began crying. Another covered his ears. Echoed from above. The attic. The little girl's face turned pale. "He's waking up." Thomas felt cold. "What do you mean?" The girl pointed upward. "The house feeds him." Another roar shook the mansion, louder this time. The walls vibrated. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The children stepped backward. Fear filled their faces. "Thomas," the girl whispered, "you have to stop him." "How?" The girl hesitated, then said something that made Thomas's blood run cold. "You have to go where William went." "The hidden chamber?" She nodded. "Beneath the basement." Another roar erupted overhead. The children vanished instantly. Gone, as if they had never existed. Thomas stood alone, the hallway silent once more. Then, something moved behind him. A reflection, inside a mirror. Thomas turned slowly. The mirror hung at the end of the corridor, and reflected the hallway perfectly. Almost perfectly. Because one thing was different. In the reflection, a tall figure stood directly behind him, smiling. Thomas spun around. Nothing. Empty hallway. He looked back at the mirror. The figure remained, watching, its black eyes fixed upon him, its smile wider than ever. Then it raised one long finger and pointed upward, toward the attic. The mirror shattered, exploding into thousands of pieces. Thomas staggered backward. The mansion shook violently. A deafening roar echoed throughout Blackthorn House. The roar transformed into laughter. Deep, ancient, hungry. And for the first time, Thomas understood. The Watcher wasn't trapped inside the house. The house was trapped around the Watcher. The mansion had been built like a cage, a prison, and something had gone terribly wrong. The creature was becoming stronger, awakening. And if Thomas couldn't find the hidden chamber beneath the basement, Blackthorn House would become its hunting ground once again. Far away, deep above him in the attic, something massive dragged itself across the floor. Waiting, listening, smiling. The mansion groaned around Thomas as another roar echoed from the attic. The Watcher was awake and growing stronger. Every minute he wasted brought it closer to freedom. With only a flashlight and Eleanor's diary, Thomas returned to the basement. The air felt colder than before. The darkness seemed alive, watching, waiting. The old journal had mentioned a hidden chamber beneath the cellar. If answers existed anywhere, they would be there. Thomas searched every wall, every shelf, every corner. For nearly an hour, he found nothing. Then he noticed something strange. One section of stone wall sounded hollow when he knocked on it. His pulse quickened. Using the fireplace poker, he pushed against the stones. A section shifted inward with a grinding sound. A hidden doorway slowly opened. Cold air poured out, air that smelled ancient, like a tomb. Beyond the doorway, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. Thomas swallowed hard and stepped forward. The stairs seemed endless. 20 steps, 30, 40, deeper and deeper beneath Blackthorn House. Finally, he reached the bottom. His flashlight illuminated a circular chamber. The room looked far older than the mansion itself. Strange symbols covered the walls. A stone altar stood at the center, and beside it lay a human skeleton. Thomas froze. The bones wore tattered clothing from the 1920s. Near the skeleton rested a leather notebook. Its cover read, "William Blackthorn." Thomas picked it up. His hands trembled. This was it, the truth. He opened the notebook. The first pages described an archaeological discovery beneath the property. William had uncovered an ancient underground shrine while expanding the mansion's foundation. At first he believed it belonged to an unknown Native American civilization, but the symbols didn't match any known culture. Then the entries became disturbing. William wrote about hearing voices, whispers from the chamber, promises, secrets, knowledge. The voice claimed to belong to an ancient being known only as the Watcher, a creature that existed long before human history, something that fed on attention, on fear, on observation. The more people noticed it, feared it, thought about it, the stronger it became. William became obsessed. He began speaking to it daily, trusting it, listening to it, until one final entry. The handwriting was almost unreadable. October 31st, 1928. I was a fool. The Watcher lied. It does not give knowledge. It consumes souls. Every person who sees its true form becomes part of it. I trapped it beneath the house, but the seal is weakening. If someone finds this, there is only one way to stop it. Destroy the heart. The heart is hidden inside the attic. God forgive me. Thomas stared. Destroy the heart. Inside the attic, the very place everyone had warned him to avoid. A sudden crash echoed overhead. The chamber shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Then came a familiar voice, soft, childlike. The little girl appeared at the edge of the flashlight. Her ghostly face looked frightened. You found the truth. What's the heart? Thomas asked. The girl pointed upward. The Watcher can't fully exist in our world. Then why is it here? Because William accidentally opened the door. The girl looked toward the ceiling. Fear filled her eyes. The heart keeps the door open. Thomas understood. Destroy the heart. Destroy the connection. End the nightmare. A deafening roar shook the underground chamber. The little girl's expression changed instantly. He's coming. The flashlight flickered. The room darkened, and suddenly the girl vanished. Thomas heard heavy footsteps above him, not in the mansion, directly above the chamber. Something enormous was moving, searching for him. Thomas ran. He sprinted up the stairs, burst through the hidden doorway, and raced through the basement. The entire mansion seemed alive now. Walls creaked, doors slammed, whispers echoed everywhere. The Watcher knew what he had discovered. It was trying to stop him. As Thomas reached the grand staircase, all the lights in the house exploded simultaneously. Glass shattered. Darkness swallowed everything. Then came silence. Absolute silence. A horrible realization struck him. The Watcher wasn't hiding anymore. It was hunting. A slow scraping sound came from above, the attic. Thomas tightened his grip on the flashlight. Every survival instinct screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere left to run. Step by step, he climbed toward the top floor. The mansion felt colder with every stair. His breath became visible. The air smelled rotten, like something dead. At the end of the corridor stood the attic door, slightly open. Darkness leaked from the gap. Thomas approached slowly. His heart pounded. The whispers began immediately. Hundreds of voices, all speaking at once. Some cried, some begged, some screamed. He recognized one of them, Michael Harris, the caretaker from the Journal. Another voice belonged to Eleanor Blackthorn, and dozens more followed. Victims, trapped souls, the Watcher's collection. Thomas pushed the attic door open. The room beyond was enormous, far larger than it should have been. Ancient wooden beams disappeared into darkness, and at the center of the attic stood something impossible. A massive black structure, pulsed like a living organ. A heart, 10 feet tall, covered in veins, beating slowly. Thump, thump, thump. Each heartbeat shook the room. Each pulse spread darkness across the floor. Thomas stared in horror. This was the thing keeping the Watcher connected to the world. Then a voice spoke behind him. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Thomas turned, and finally saw the Watcher. Not a glimpse, not a reflection, not a shadow. The real thing. It stood nearly 12 feet tall. Its pale body looked stretched and wrong. Its black eyes contained endless darkness, and its smile was wider than any human face should allow. The creature stared directly at him and smiled. The Watcher smiled. Its black eyes remained fixed on Thomas. For a moment, neither moved. The gigantic heart continued beating behind them. Thump. The attic floor trembled. Thump. Dark veins crawled across the wooden boards like living roots. Thump. The entire mansion seemed to breathe. Thomas gripped his flashlight so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The creature tilted its head. Its neck bent farther than any human neck could. Then it spoke. Thomas Walker. Its voice sounded like dozens of voices layered together. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. "You've been looking for answers." Thomas said nothing. The Watcher's smile widened. "You humans always do." Another heartbeat shook the room. The creature slowly stepped forward. Its long limbs moved unnaturally, almost like a spider pretending to be human. "I know everything about you, Thomas." A cold chill ran through them. The Watcher continued. "I know about your wife." Thomas froze. The creature's eyes darkened. "I know how lonely you've been." Another step. "I know how many nights you've spent wishing you could see her again." Thomas's heart pounded. The Watcher was inside his mind, digging through memories, using them, manipulating him. "Stop," Thomas whispered. The creature laughed. The sound echoed through the attic. "You miss her." Another step. "I can bring her back." Thomas's breath caught. "No, I can." The Watcher raised one pale hand. Ness gathered beside it. The shadows twisted, shifted, and slowly formed a shape. A woman. Thomas felt the world stop. It looked exactly like his wife. The same face, the same smile, the same eyes. For one terrible second, he wanted to believe it. He wanted to run toward her, to hear her voice again, to hold her one last time. Then he remembered something. His wife's smile had always reached her eyes. This smile didn't. It felt empty, wrong, like a mask. Thomas stepped backward. The illusion immediately dissolved. The Watcher's smile vanished. For the first time, it seemed annoyed. "You're stronger than the others." Thomas looked toward the massive heart. It pulsed again, Dark veins spread farther across the floor. The creature noticed and smiled once more. "You cannot destroy it. We'll see." The Watcher's expression darkened. "You think William tried?" Thomas said nothing. The creature laughed again. The others screamed. None succeeded. A low growl rumbled through the attic. The temperature dropped. Ice began forming across nearby windows. Then the Watcher took another step, and another. Its body seemed larger now, stronger. The seal was weakening. Thomas realized something horrifying. If he waited much longer, it might become unstoppable. The creature knew it too. Its grin widened. "You are already too late." Suddenly, every light in the attic exploded. Glass shattered. Darkness flooded the room. The giant heart began beating faster. Thump, thump, thump. The Watcher moved, fast, far faster than before. Thomas barely dodged as a clawed hand smashed into the floor where he had been standing. Wood exploded. Splinters filled the air. Thomas ran. The attic shook violently. The creature pursued him. Heavy footsteps thundered behind him. Each impact rattled the entire mansion. Thomas reached a pile of old furniture, grabbed a rusted lantern. Inside remained a small amount of fuel. An idea formed. Dangerous, but possible. He smashed the lantern against a wooden beam. Fuel splashed everywhere. Across the floor, across the heart. The Watcher's smile vanished instantly. For the first time, fear appeared in its eyes. Thomas noticed and understood. The heart could be destroyed. The creature lunged. Thomas sprinted toward the opposite side of the attic. A claw narrowly missed his head. The impact shattered an entire support beam. The attic groaned. The mansion trembled. Thomas reached into his pocket. A lighter. He had used it for candles during power outages. Now it felt heavier than gold. The Watcher stopped moving. Its eyes locked onto the lighter. No. Its voice sounded different. Afraid. Thomas flicked it open. A tiny flame appeared. The creature roared. The sound shook the house from foundation to roof. Darkness surged toward Thomas. Shadowy hands erupted from the walls. The souls trapped inside the mansion screamed. The Watcher raised both arms. The entire attic began collapsing. Wood cracked. Beams snapped. Windows exploded outward. Thomas nearly lost his footing. Then something incredible happened. The children appeared. Dozens of them. The same ghosts he had seen throughout the mansion. The little girl stepped forward. Behind her stood every victim, every trapped soul. Eleanor Blackthorn, Michael Harris, the missing caretakers, the lost children, the forgotten dead, all of them. The Watcher roared. The spirits rushed toward it, grabbing its limbs, holding it back. The creature fought violently, but there were too many. Too many years, too many victims. The little girl looked at Thomas. Thomas ran. The heart towered before him. Black veins pulsed beneath its surface. It beat faster and faster, like it knew what was coming. Thomas threw the lighter. The flames struck the fuel. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then fire erupted. The heart ignited instantly. Black flames consumed its surface. The attic exploded with screams. Not human screams. Something older. Something ancient. The Watcher shrieked. Its body began cracking. Dark fractures spread across its pale skin. No! The entire mansion shook violently. Walls split apart. The roof groaned. The fire spread everywhere. The spirits held the creature in place. The little girl smiled for the first time. A real smile. Not a frightened one. A peaceful one. "Thank you, Thomas." The heart burst. A deafening explosion filled the attic. Black energy erupted outward. The Watcher's scream became unbearable. Its body twisted. collapsed and shattered into thousands of fragments of darkness. The fragments dissolved like smoke. Then the creature was gone, completely gone. Silence followed. The oppressive darkness vanished instantly. The cold disappeared. The whispers stopped. Blackthorn House felt empty. Truly empty. The spirits began fading, one by one. The little girl looked toward the growing fire. "It's over." Thomas nodded. "Who were you?" The girl smiled softly. "Sarah Blackthorn. The first child taken. The child from the dreams. The child who had tried to warn him." Sarah looked toward the other spirits. Her family waited nearby. For the first time, none of them appeared frightened, only peaceful. "We can go home now." Then she vanished. The others followed. Eleanor, Michael, the children, the caretakers. All of them disappeared into the light. Gone at last. Free. The attic began collapsing. Thomas turned and ran. The fire spread rapidly. The staircase cracked beneath him. Smoke filled the hallways. The mansion was dying, and Thomas intended to survive it. He raced through the corridors, down the stairs, past burning walls, past collapsing ceilings. The front door appeared ahead. For a terrifying moment, he expected it to remain sealed. It slowly opened, as though the house itself was releasing. Thomas stumbled outside. Seconds later, he reached the driveway and looked back. Blackthorn House burned against the night sky. Flames consumed the ancient mansion. Windows shattered. Towers collapsed. The roof caved inward. Years of darkness disappeared in a sea of fire. Thomas watched until dawn. By sunrise, almost nothing remained. Only smoking ruins and silence. 3 months later, Thomas sat on the porch of a small cabin near the coast of Maine. The ocean stretched endlessly before him. Peaceful, quiet, normal. A life he hadn't thought possible. The authorities investigated the remains of Blackthorn House. They found evidence of hidden rooms, human remains, decades of disappearances. The story made national headlines, yet nobody ever discovered the full truth. Nobody would have believed it anyway. Thomas rarely spoke about what happened. Some memories were better left alone. The nightmares eventually faded. The fear weakened. Life moved forward. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt alive again. One evening, as the sun disappeared beyond the ocean, Thomas opened an old box. Inside lay a photograph recovered from Blackthorn House. The picture showed Sarah Blackthorn and her family, smiling, happy, alive. Thomas smiled back, then placed the photograph inside a drawer and closed it. Their story was over. The Watcher was gone. The dead were finally at peace, and Blackthorn House would never claim another victim again. Or so Thomas believed. Mansion. Deep underground, hidden within the ruins of the ancient chamber, a tiny crack appeared in the stone. From inside the darkness beyond that crack, 2 black eyes slowly opened, and something smiled.